Simon Fay, welcome to Tasty Humans.
Thank you.
Powered by Watson and here in the wonderful Media One Hotel. How you doing?
I'm all right, yeah. It's a nice place. Nice little studio. I'm impressed. Yeah.
Pulled out all the stops.
You have, yeah. Very nice.
Just for you. Give us me.
Some wonderful mahogany going on. It's very nice.
None of the others have been in a studio like this.
Really? All right. Because it's opening night. Yeah.
So you are an old school raver.
Kind of, yeah.
Kind of, you know what I mean? And as you were just saying, actually, before we started doing the mic test, that you've quit your job. Brilliant, you know what I mean? Rebellious, and you're starting a new company and trying to get Ravers in Dubai off the ground. So why don't you just start by sort of putting us all in the picture of what's actually going on with you?
Fine. So, been here for 10 years. I work in finance. Worked for a couple of companies here, Emirates and some other guys, and a lot of people come in here. They kind of they start a new job and they don't really understand it. Finance is hard to get your head around in Dubai. So I'm kind of like working out this new job and the people I'm working with and the nationalities and cultures I'm working with. And then obviously on the weekend going out and going to clubs. So I'm from Manchester in the UK. I've been to various clubs in Manchester, Leeds, Sheffield, London, Europe. I absolutely adore music. I adore dance music. I've been listening to music since I was 10. And when the internet came in 98, I just started devouring music.
Mm-hmm.
So music is, an integral part of my life. It's most of my life. So come to Dubai, told it's very, very different to Manchester with the obvious kind of differences.
The weather.
Just very
especially Manchester.
I mean, the easiest way to describe it is you go into a club in Manchester, you get out of a taxi and it's throwing it down with rain, and you walk into this club and you're walking through this thing and it's like really kind of like you don't really know what's happening, but you get excited by it. The equivalent in Dubai is you get out of a taxi, you walk through a hotel lobby, you get asked a series of questions, get your ID out, and then you walk into this very, very nice marble, this just beautiful to some people place, and it's just not the same thing. Now, for some people, that's fine. It's like the Las Vegas model, I guess you call it, or the Los Angeles model, high end, very nice.
Yeah, definitely Vegas, yeah.
But it's certainly not Manchester. So, having said that, though, walked through various lobbies, walked into various marble places, and enjoyed myself. So I've seen like Jeff Mills, the Habto Ballroom, Mode Selector at Groove on the Grass, DJ Tennis in this hotel. I've actually high-fived Armand Van Helden in this place.
Oh, yeah, he lives in Q43. Yeah. It was
just an amazing night. And I live around the corner. I'm like, Armand Van Helden is playing in my local. And then I've been drinking too much and ended up like doing the usual fanboy thing. So I've had some brilliant nights, like really have. But the one thing that did it for me, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I was at a place out of city after COVID, and there were these two guys playing on the stage, and they were playing the Measaloo by Dick Dale and the Deltones. The
Pulp Fiction, yeah.
Right. So obviously not club music. I mean, it's a great tune, but it's not club music. And these guys did this like progressive, kind of floaty version of Dick Dale and the Deltones. And one of the DJs had his Fender Stratocaster out, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? Like, this is not what I want to do.
What were the crowd doing?
It was early doors, so
okay.
I think they just got kind of like makes on to like sort of get this sound system forward. This is just one example of it, various examples, and dance music is infinite, isn't it? It is. I've only listened to a certain proportion of all music. Dance music is obviously infinite as well in its nature. So people like it in different ways. I like hi-hats and bass drums and stabs. And, just like stuff that really gets me excited and gets me moving, stuff that makes me think, people like it in different ways. And that's a different genre of music. It's just not for me. So
what was the first, I love asking this question to music, house music, electronic music people. It was like, what was the tune that made you go, I can't actually swear, but what the... what is that?
That's Train to Transcendental by KLF.
Really?
89?
Yeah, KLF.
And that's like that is trance. I would call that trance music.
Wow, a very unusual bunch of people.
Yeah,
and
very
also
interesting. Yeah.
not essentially that cool. I would what I will qualify that. Sorry, don't get us done. No. I'm saying that I remember in the early days of the 89 to 93, 94, it crossed over into chart music.
Yeah,
I'm a massive Prodigy fan. They were in the charts. Yeah. Charlie says, do you know what I mean? So I'm not. What I'm saying, where it's not exactly cool, is it wasn't sitting on the KLF. Didn't sit on that kind of performing at raves roster back in the early days. They were one of the first to transcend into the charts.
Well, one of them was manager of Teardrop Explodes.
Okay.
He's from like the London, from Liverpool scene, so like all the kind of like Echo and the Bunnymen. I think he was even the manager of the Echo and the Bunnymen.
Okay.
Then they did Doctor in the TARDIS.
Yes.
And then they wrote a book about how to make a number one. So they were like pop but subversive. They went on the Brit Awards, chucked a dead sheep into the audience.
Well, did you see the thing they did when they burnt £1 million?
Burnt £1 million quid.
They couldn't actually do it in the UK, or they had to go. They went to a Nordic country, if I remember right. It's more like Sweden or Iceland or something.
The story.
I remember seeing that live, where they got it out on a pallet, lit a fire, and stood there. £1 million and burnt it. Yeah. And
it's narrated by Martin Sheen, that video.
And it was bizarre. I think they did another one where they nailed £1 million to a board and tried to auction it as art.
Oh, they're legends. They're legends. There's a number of books that I can't remember the guy's name. Bill Drummond.
Yeah,
it's crazy stories, and it's just like people just like letting flow with the creativity, because this guy had the means to do it. They just went nuts.
It went nuts because they were the same as like the Shaman.
Similar, yeah.
They had a similar kind of like very exposed commercially, but then I saw the Shaman live at Glastonbury accidentally. they were on before the Offspring, and I just thought, okay, we'll get through all this Ebenezer good commercial nonsense. Yeah. And they actually did that thing where playing live, they played a lot harder than their commercial stuff, and they're actually very good. So
yeah. I mean, similar to Prodigy in a way, yeah. But yeah, KLF, and I still love the KLF. I've just bought like 44th birthday. My sister to buy me this limited edition KLF long sleeve T-shirt. Like I went out with it on like to somewhere the other week, and I'm wearing this, and I'm like, yeah, I look good. Nobody said a word. Like,
no. Probably no one understood what you were doing. I love that T-shirt. It's iconic. Yeah.
I was thinking it should have been like pastel colours, like faded. You know what I'm getting?
Worn. I mean, it's like the T-shirt that screams, "I've had this 30 years."
Exactly. Yeah. So the KLF, and the KLF symbol is a pyramid with a speaker coming out at the end.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite close to what is in my head about, I just think dance music is anti-establishment. I know that it's very establishment now, but I've always loved the naughtiness of it.
What makes you say that?
I've just loved it. I'm just drawn to it. So,
but how do you? Because I think I know where you're going with it. But how do you determine it as naughty? Like,
well, Shaman. No, I think. How can I? Yeah, I mean, it's probably not the well thought out phrase. That I just. I mean, it's quite. I don't know. It's hard.
It broke all. It broke all the rules.
Yeah.
It came out. I refer to it as maybe the last great musical movement, not because I'm set in my ways and I'm really old school, right? But it's just more. I don't know if anyone's invented it. There's been no new instruments since that. So you had grunge, you had Britpop, you had acid jazz, you then moved into the kind of X Factor thing, and now we're all into loops and this. But electronic music and the dance music came along, and they changed. They had the criminal rights justice. They had to change the UK law. In Parliament to deal with what was happening, which was just tons and tons of outdoor parties. And funnily enough, in order for this particular conversation, I looked up the criminal rights justice bill last night, and apart from it being a visual trip down memory lane, it was an article in Mixmag, but it was just like stopping convoys, people meeting up. And the funniest thing was a gathering of people to listen to music of repetitive beats. And I was like, what?
And then at the same time, the Prodigy released music for the Jilted Generation. Yeah. And in the inlaid notes, there's a rope bridge, and on one side,
and he's cutting it. Yeah.
And on the other are all the hippies, and somebody's got a knife, like a machete, to like cut the bridge, and like that's the kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we got quite geeky before about music, didn't we? But look at jungle, look at hip hop, how samplers have evolved, and these unbelievable creative minds that created this music. They were given this technology, and they made like unbelievable music. Anything from kind of hip hop to Square Pusher, I guess, is probably the other extreme of it. And that still happens now. Like I don't subscribe to the fact that music's got worse. I think it's pretty much exactly the same.
You think?
Yeah, I passionately believe that, actually. Yeah, I do listen to a lot of it though. So, like Bandcamp, have you heard of the website Bandcamp?
No.
So it's just like a website that anybody can put their music on. So there's a lot of peak producers on there doing like re-edits. So, for example, I really like I can't remember the name of it. It'll come to me. It's like a diva. Remember a diva? Respect by a diva.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like a late 80s dance tune, brilliant tune.
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to going, it's not quite got the right drums, it's not quite mixed in the way that you can DJ. Went on Bandcamp and got the most amazing version of it. Well, it's just some kid that's just kind of messed around with it on Ableton and created these edits, but original music is very, very good. And they have Bandcamp Friday, so you can just go on there and just listen to. I mean, I listen to a lot of music. Even when I was working, I work from home, so I just sit there listen to music like 8 hours a day. And like, fair enough, like 7 hours of it isn't very good, but you just wait.
Wait for that one.
That's really me. That like the Ravers in Dubai stuff is great, but I just love just sitting at home and just listening to a lot.
Do you know? I think that one thing that's missing from music this day and age is bands.
Oh, but massively.
I've heard this weird statistic that this is going to be wrong, but it's something like this, it was something like in the 80s, the number one hit songs collectively over the 80s, it was something like 196 bands had made a song that gone to number one.
Right.
In the 90s, it was over 200. In the noughties, it was something like, I don't know, under 100. But in the last 10 years, it's been something like 4. Like actual, and so what you've got is you've got collaborations, you've got boy bands, girl bands, you've got solo artists, but what you're not getting anymore is, the quintessential 4 or 5 piece band, which I think is very sad.
Yeah, it is sad. Yeah, I mean, it's homogenized, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's very homogenous now, chart music, and also the way that you count an entry into it is completely changed, hasn't it? Like going to a HMV buying a CD was how we did it, right? How we both did it. Now it's streaming, isn't it? And it's homogenized. It's all algorithm driven, or a lot of it is. But we're talking about pop music here, so this is that would.
Oh yeah,
Band wise. I mean, I've got this thing about bands. So like one of my favorite bands of all time is Radiohead.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But even Radiohead have brought out Duff albums. Like
there are very few bands that everything's been amazing.
The Beatles. I think that's it. Even some of their early stuff was a bit dodgy, but
I'm trying to think. What would I say is a band where every album's been amazing?
I can think of one. It's a producer though, not a band.
Oh, go on then.
Floating Point.
I've never heard of that.
Check him out, Floating Points.
Go on then. Like, you've got to qualify that.
Sam Shepard is this like classically trained keyboard player from London, and his first album is it's like a bit like Pink Floyd almost. Like some of it, it's very like there's a lot of like Fender Rhodes sounding music. It's a lot of orchestral stuff. So he's done 5 albums, and every single album has been amazing. And he's bringing a new one out the day before I go to Ibiza in 3 weeks' time, and I just know it's going to be amazing. The guy is a genius.
What would you constitute? I love this. This is going to open a can of worms. What would you constitute as a perfect album? So, because it is a term, it's a term people use to put, and I would say that Music for a Jilted Generation by The Prodigy is a perfect album.
Not a really good ending. Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd is a perfect album.
Agreed. Yeah.
But
yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about albums that have got like a thread through it. I mean, like so Dark Side of the Moon it's about madness, isn't it? About human madness.
Most remarkable album.
I mean, that's the only album I've ever bought on every format.
All right.
Yeah, I'll never.
Do you know, I would actually argue and I'm happy to make this statement, I would actually argue that the first 20 minutes of Dark Side of up until the point where money comes in, right, where it's one continuous piece of music, I would sit and argue that it is the greatest piece of music ever recorded.
It's very, very good.
Because it is stunningly good and covers a lot of different formats. There's obviously guitar riffs, and there's the live vocals, the singing. There is some tech moments, early synth moments, stuff like that. So I'm going to put a mark down.
So there's actually an album that I think is quite similar to Dark Side of the Moon, and it's Floating Point.
Okay.
It's by him and Pharaoh Sanders and the London Philharmonic Orchestra, called Promises. And it's in movements, so there's 7 movements, 10 movements, I think. And it's like classical music, that kind of like the movement is a change in the music.
Mm-hmm.
Sounding a bit kind of highbrow, this, isn't it?
Go for it. Like,
check it out.
Especially in that taste.
It's just an amazing piece of music. And like this spur of thought from my wife, she just hears me just ranting on about all this stuff all the time. So
is she as into it as you are?
Yeah, in a different way. Yeah, I mean, she's the one that got me into clubbing, really. But yeah, I mean, it's just blokes and the hobbies, isn't it? Like, I obsess about it. Like, one of the reasons why I think Ravers in Dubai has been quite successful in a small way is just like me, just kind of having the knowledge of dance music and just being able to sort of execute it into events. But yeah, Helen I would say that she's just into like classic house. She's not. She likes a lot of the music that I listen to, but I think Helen's kind of line in the sand is listening to Romanian minimal techno at 6 a.m. I could do that quite easily. Yeah, I get it from my mum. My mum's like that. Like, my mum's massively into classical music. She's not a musician or anything. She just loves music.
Do you play an instrument?
I play guitar. I played guitar up to about 22. It's funny actually, because the egos that you get in bands, and like the drummer especially, the drummer drives you nuts, or drove me nuts. It's very, very similar to DJs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why? I always thought drummers would be very like...
It's just egos. It's just like an ego is a good and a bad thing. Or
yeah.
It's just what.
But you always see the drummer as like, yeah, okay, they're the one keeping it all going, but more like they're the least. What would be the right, not front face? I always think drummers they're the lucky ones. They could walk down the street, go and buy a pint of milk, and no one would know who they are. That and the bass guitarist,
Yeah. So I think, I'd say drummers like that, but I just think it's just your own opinion of yourself, I guess. And I'm just saying that it's quite similar to DJ. So like, I'm not a DJ. I'm just somebody that loves music. I've just ended up DJing at my event. But I've gone through a similar journey with DJs now that I've had about 20 years ago. And yeah, it's just...
How do you... Because I used to run clubs.
Yeah.
I've done many...
You know better than I do.
What? Well, you know what the thing is? There are certain types of DJs. I mean, as you know, I had CM Williams on here, and I said to him...
Legend.
And I'll always say this, is that the one thing I loved about CN is whoever's there or whoever isn't there, he'll just connect with what's in front of him.
Yeah.
So if you're telling, if you think that 1,000 people are coming and he's the headliner and 100 people are coming, which means this is a disaster, you know what I mean? Promoters not happy, clubs are not happy, no one's happy.
No.
Even though it's his name at the top of the flyer, like, he just smiles in your face and just goes, well, let's just have it anyway. Do you know what I mean? And just starts jumping up and down and will create the atmosphere for whoever's there, which I think is the single most important thing.
Yeah.
Don't worry about who didn't show up. Worry about who did.
Yeah. No, I mean, there are certain DJs like that. Yeah, at the end, like I said, a force of nature, isn't he? He just loves what he's doing.
Then you have other DJs that just...
I think that, I mean, especially now, like, Dave Clark, the techno DJ, was on Instagram the other week and he was saying, I remember when DJs were cool and then they weren't cool and now they are cool. You're like, they're not cool now because everybody's a DJ.
Yes.
Because of the technology and because it's just very, very mainstream. And, for me, there was a guy that came up to me at one of our events and said, like, my wife's paid for me to have DJ lessons. And I said, mate, you don't need DJ lessons. Just go and listen to a lot of music. Like, that's what a DJ is, knowing your music and knowing what makes people dance. And, CN, whether it's 100 or 1,000, he's enjoying himself. That's why I got into this. I just want to throw like really good parties and have a good time.
So how is it going, Ravers in Dubai?
That's my wife.
She's not it.
It's going really well. Like, I have to pinch myself quite a lot of the time, because I'd come from this finance background and nobody listened to a word I was saying. I just always felt like it was going to end tomorrow. But it's become quite popular. I don't know if that's the right word. People just love it. People just love to come. So we started off pitching it to older people. So I had this idea about having a club that opened at about 5 p.m. and closed at 12, and that all the people that went to the club were all like parent age. Like, I don't have any kids, but I'm like 44, so I'm the target market. They don't want to stay out late. They don't think Dubai is for them because of the club culture, because of VIPs and just younger people being there. So we did this event, and I mean, that was like almost my perfect night, because I'd been DJing in my bedroom all these years and never played to anybody. And then I had this opportunity to play to like 75 people. It was in like a back room in McGettigans.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just such an amazing night. I had like grown men, bald men, sweating, just staring at my face and just going,
which is what you want. This is exactly what you want.
And they were saying, like, this is the greatest night I've ever had, ever. And I'm like, oh, they're obviously like just like been drinking and stuff. And that's never ended. It's always been like that. And like the ladies in particular, like we have a ladies' night. So we have two events. We've got a house event and a techno event. The common thread is that it's like 90s and noughties styled. It's not completely that, but we want to kind of pitch it to people that liked that older type of music. So when we started doing these events, people were listening to like Faithless, Josh Wing, Lord, the Streetly Rhythms, whatever. Like, and they were just telling me like, nobody's ever played anything like this before. This is why it's the best night out I've ever had. I'm like, I don't understand why nobody else is doing it. I still don't understand why nobody else is doing it.
So because it's quite niche.
I know.
Like, it's weird. No, it's weird. Like for me to say that era of music from, let's say 95 to 2005 or 95 2010 is niche. It's crazy, because I went to IB for a couple of times in that time period and it was everywhere. Like it was huge, but it is a version of house which I think is the best by a mile, and not because I was young then and old now, because back in that time I was late 20s, early 30s, but I was going out when I was 17, and it's better than the music then. So it's not like I'm sort of stuck in history, but it's fun. It's up tempo.
Totally.
In a kind of DJ world, it's 126 BPM and above, which means it's got energy. It's not deep house. It's got vocals. It's happy. It's about love and sunshine, and it's got fantastic lyrics, and there's a bit of disco in it, and you can just really go and enjoy yourself to it.
There's a tune by a band, a set of producers called Underground Resistance from Detroit. Jeff Mills used to be in them, and they do a tune called Transition, and that to me is like my anthem. And it's basically the song that's in my head at the moment. It's like, you're not very happy with your life. Where are you going with your life? Where do you want to go and make your transition? And I even went to a therapist, like, you got to listen to this tune. It's amazing. But it is, there probably is music like that now, but I look back to that tune. I listen to tunes of that time. There's a lot of stuff being made now that's similar-ish to it. Similar in a way. But yeah, I mean, it's just a house is a feeling, isn't it? And this is nostalgia for sure. I think that, like, so I was Ravers in Dubai going. It's going well because there's also younger people coming. And if you're a music fan, you're a music fan. Like, it doesn't, Dark Side of the Moon came out in 1972. Yeah, 8 years before I was born. Yeah. Right. But it's a brilliant piece of music. You listen to Jack Your Body by Steve Silk-Hurley. Yeah. It sounds so different to, Fred Again, or, something that's good, but now. But you love both those types of music. And I genuinely think that Ravers in Dubai is more kind of widespread than what I set it out to be. If you love your music, you love your music. So we've got this house event. It's kind of moved around a bit in terms of what we play. I play like the 1 hour of just like absolute stonewall bangers. I never did that. I never ever did that before I started this. My wife, again, I'll always go back to my wife Ellen. She's like, when you used to do parties in Manchester, you'd be playing like obscure whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I've just changed as I've gotten older. So yeah, the house thing has kind of moved around a bit. The techno event that we started recently, that is like, I mean, I talked to you about that a long time ago. Everybody in the place. I mean, it's not quite the same. Everybody in the place is a 90s rave tune.
Yeah.
Our Everybody in the Place is just like 90s and noughties techno. So like Dave Clark, Joey Beltram, Robert Hood.
What was Joey Beltram's rave tune? Energy Flash.
Right, so we was in Pikes last year.
So listen to Energy Flash.
Yeah.
Anyone watching this, you just, you know what I mean? Really loud. And
It's Chime, isn't it, by Orbital? That's
Chime by Orbital. Yeah.
So we was in Pikes last year, a hotel in Ibiza, and was watching a guy called Artwork. He's like a London...
I've heard of this, yeah.
He was in that dubstep band with Scream and Benga, I can't remember. But he's kind of all over the place, this guy, musically. And he did an all-nighter in Pikes, and we got there at 10 or 11 o'clock. And then he played like 5:30 a.m. He played Energy Flash, and like I'm now even thinking about it now. It was an unbelievable night, unbelievable. So yeah, and he went through the entire gamut of music. So I've played Energy Flash at the last one. If you want to listen to Energy Flash, come to our event on Friday.
The thing is,
you might play it.
You know the thing is, the thing is with Energy Flash is there's a handful of tunes, and you've already mentioned Josh Wing, like High State of Consciousness by Josh Wing. French Kiss by Lil Louis, I'd probably throw that in there as well. Yeah. There's a handful of songs from that acid house sort of, or you know what? There's a better way of saying this actually. Sort of every now and again, at any point, a track will come along where you just go, "Wow!" Like it fits into the genre that it wants to be in, but it's oh so different, you know. And like I say, Josh Wing, High State of Consciousness. We spoke about this downstairs, and just.
It's just like you can get the sound of a club in a truck.
I mean, I now think back to what would it be? 96, 97, Camden Palace, which has now become Coco's in Camden.
Yeah.
But it's the old theatre, which is still going strong now. This is the Camden Palace, which was an iconic dance music venue. And you were there 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, late 90s, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the DJ would, you know, they would start Josh Wing with High State Conscious, you know, almost right at the beginning, because the minute it starts, just drop that in, and the whole crowd goes crazy because, as we said downstairs, because you know what's coming.
Yeah.
Which is that absolute explosion of it's just noise, and it's just
my first experience of hearing that song.
I'll go do it now.
My first experience of that song was Kiddie Ritzy in Bolton on a Tuesday night. 1996. Same tune.
Yeah.
They were all going nuts for it as well.
But it's like I said, and Joey Beltram, Energy Flash, and Lil Louis, French Kiss, which was hugely controversial at the time because of basically what happens in the middle of that song.
Well, it's like one of the band tunes here that you just can't but they're also quite controversial about that tune is it slows right down.
You can't play it.
I very much doubt it. Yeah? You've heard the scare stories of people playing tracks here who've been banned, so that would definitely be on the banned list.
Because that's what I say. 'Cause they slow it right down. That's the type of tracks that I love are the ones that do stuff like that. Yeah. Where there was what is it? Pump It Up, Homeboy, which was Sounds of New York or something like this. It's a house tune.
Right.
Slows right down in the middle. Must have been about 94, 95. Slows down in the middle, breaks out into hip hop. And because in a house club, it's the tempo is very, very consistent. Yeah. For it to do that, you don't see it coming. And it would slow right down into this massive hip hop scratch break.
Right.
I remember I used to go to a club called Progress in Derby, which was around the corner from Renaissance. And it's kind of mental, crazy. Like the crowd is going, not getting your phone out or filming it. Madness.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a lot of people. I've met so many people from around that part of the world. Like went to Renaissance, went to Shelley's Laser Disco.
I remember Shelley's. I don't remember.
Same place.
I remember Progress, Renaissance. Then it was Miss Moneypenny's, which was Birmingham. Back to Basics, which was Leeds. Yeah.
So I mean, amazing places. And you know, can't do it here, but I'm trying my damnedest to do it.
So how are you going about trying to connect with people about this? Because of our age group versus target market versus, I think we were saying in the lift coming up about live streaming events. Is that what you really want to do, or do you want to try and keep it sort of a bit mystique. But
I mean, I definitely want to keep it mysterious. I don't really like that. Fair enough, people, not everybody can come to it, but I'd rather people be there. I think they would prefer to be there as well, but for whatever reason they can't. I mean, the primary way is just by me speaking to people. So I've got this pitch deck, and I've got a list of all the people that I've spoken to in the last 2 years, and just through speaking to because I don't know much about it here. By speaking to people like you and other people, they kind of send me off down a path, and I'm a bit of I'm quite good at sort of like just researching stuff and just spending a long time thinking about stuff. I'm quite good at talking to people, so I get, these contacts is one way. I get a lot of inbound on the Instagram and Facebook. People who are coming here on holiday, people who are recently moved here. People come to our events and they're like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" I'm like, "Mate, this has only been going as long as we've been here." So just trying to understand from people, just by speaking to people. Obviously, the social media. There's a certain aesthetic to the way Ravers in Dubai events work, like 90s, like VHS rave orientated, the smiley face. Yeah, kind of know what you're getting. But that's really, the economics of it all is how you take 4,300 people on Instagram to your event, and that's very, very difficult.
Yeah,
I think that you got to have a good brand. You got to know what you're talking about. Your brand has to kind of bring them across. So I'm spending some money on that at the moment. The DJs, we've just had Dad's DJing at our events up until now. So we've had quite a few guys, Neil, Gareth, they're very, very good DJs from the UK. Myself and Tom, we've DJed, like quite a few guys, but it's always been dads. And, I quite liked the idea of, dads DJing to dads DJing to mums. It just looked so different to Dubai that I thought that was a good selling technique. Yeah. And it was to a degree. But now we need to sort of move on a little bit from that. So we've got a young French girl DJing on Friday, really good DJ, really knows her stuff. It's about collaboration and following.
What will she play?
She'll be playing a Ravers in Dubai set.
Okay.
Hopefully. I mean, I've been speaking.
How old is she, if you don't know?
22? Do you know, like that, when you look at somebody's passport, you're like, wow. I was in my second year at uni when you was born. It was crazy. Yeah. So she,
yeah.
But these, there's a lady who's joined our group recently called Raha Saraba. She's from Iranian. She's brilliant, like great DJ, knows the music, and she's been going around Dubai and trying to find somebody to work with. And for some reason, she wants to work with us. Wants to work with me.
So, what's the 22-year-old? What's her name?
Parvaneh.
So when she came on board, was she familiar with all of this music, or did she go off on a? Did you say, right, you got to go and research all this? And
I would prefer that to happen, because I'm quite a distrustful person. I don't know. I think I get it from my mum, but I almost like want people to kind of audition for it and be like, yeah, show me what you've got. Here's your brief. Show me what you've got. And it doesn't work like that here. There's a little bit of a leap of faith. The way I've done it is by just making my own mixes. So I started a podcast in 2018 on SoundCloud. It's just a DJ podcast. Doing quite well though. I've got like 30,000 listens over a long period. And I just said, look, this is the kind of sound that I want from the event. The house event, because I was doing it from scratch, I was kind of making it up as I was going along. Yes, I was playing Faithless and Josh Wing, all the stuff that I knew would go down well. But like I say, it kind of meandered into this thing, and I've been doing it for 2 years. Now I'm much more certain about what our night should sound like to be distinctive from all the other nights. So the techno event, I've done like 4 or 5 promos on our Ravers in Dubai SoundCloud account. And it's like, all the stuff about energy flashes on that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of Robert Hood sounding like minimal techno, like kind of like harder stuff. And just trying to work out the sound of the event through that. Then we did the first event at the end of June, working with 25 hours down the road. And that went really, really well. Like, I love playing hard music, DJ-wise.
Okay.
I knew it was going to work. Like, did you ever get this where you did an event and then the morning after you wake up and you're just on like cloud 9? That was me the day after that event.
Yeah. I've definitely been, there's more certain clubs I've run in the past. Yeah. When you kind of wake up the next day, you just think,
she's amazing.
That was awesome, And
a lot of that's because I've never done it before, and I just get a real I mean, it's about an idea and executing the idea. And then if the idea is cool and people really like it, and a lot of people liked it, I knew it would work. Like,
well, it's about atmosphere. It's about it's about that moment where you're standing there, and so when you're a DJ or promoter or a club manager, you're someone behind what's actually happening.
Yeah.
So you're not really enjoying it. You can you are. What I mean by that, you get to a point where you need to know, you need to get to this point, which is what we're just about to say, where you just go, right, it's worked. Do you know what I mean? Which is normally around 2:00 in the morning or 2:30, and the place is rammed, and the headliner's on, and the music's been great, and the music's really great, and you kind of go, okay, right, first box tick, we're not going to lose any money, we're actually going to make a bit, you know. But most importantly, everyone in this room is having a really, really good time. And then you kind of go, oh, because as you probably know, and I definitely know, when you see the other side of it where it doesn't work, and you just,
it's horrible.
And there's nothing worse than an event not working. Atmospherically. You can have the bodies in, but when the DJ doesn't connect with the audience, and then you can just feel, you're like...
Yeah, it's happened a few times in small, like, private parties, Yeah, it's just the best thing about Ravers in Dubai are the people, like by a mile. Like the DJ, I've always shied away from promoting the DJs because, do you know, the Wolf of Wall Street, the end of the Wolf of Wall Street, there's a bit in it where Jordan Belfort's talking.
Yeah.
At this thing, he's like doing a training thing, and then the camera turns around, and apparently it's Martin Scorsese telling the audience that they're like watching the Wolf of Wall Street, and they're almost like, you know, being like voyeurs of his behaviour. And I always like the idea of kind of having the thing going on, but turning it around. So you've got the DJ, and the DJ, this is the center of the attention. The DJ is on a raised platform. There's all these fireworks going on behind that person. And that's what club culture is in the popular sense. That's what it is now. And I'm like, no, turn it around. It's all about the crowd. It's all about the audience. And there was a guy who, he said to me, like, I really want to come to your event, but I'm like massively overweight and I'm really old, and you don't want me at your event. I'm like, you're exactly the kind of person that I want at my event. I want people to be taking photos of you at my event, because that's what Ravers in Dubai is. It doesn't matter about that DJ. It doesn't matter about...
Well, you know,
it's just not what it's about.
Another thing I actually did last night was I started very quickly. I looked at the old school rave era.
Right.
You know what I mean? Fantasia, 1992, Donington Park Castle, one of the biggest raves that ever took place. And I hadn't seen any of this for a very, very, very long time. And one thing that I was shocked at was the diversity and difference of the crowd.
Right.
Like, the way everyone was dressed was so random. And the way that large swaths, that's a good word, of people next to each other just into exactly the same thing, but no what's the right consistency? No. Some had hats and gloves, others were just t-shirts, jumpers. Some looked. You could see some people from that era with the cool kids, but some people with the cheesy kids. But no, there's just hundreds of them.
Well, that's why hooliganism ended, apparently, wasn't it?
No, apparently, apparently the rave era took out football hooliganism. Yeah, for certain. Everyone stopped drinking for a while.
Yeah. I mean, they're great at watching these videos. I've watched a lot of them to grab footage for our visuals. Just massive venues in massive hangars.
Well, it just didn't matter who you were. That was the thing.
It's brilliant. Yeah. Brilliant. And I said to you before, one of the reasons why I do this is because I felt like I missed out. That's a good example of what I mean. There's a guy I've met who used to do World Dance, one of the big...
Yes, World Dance,
Jungle event, I think it was, and they're coming back. They're doing an event, I think, next year in the UK. And I'm like, it won't be as good. It won't be as good as...
No, it never is.
I went to Renaissance to do the 2005 reunion at somewhere around that part of the world. And it was Sasha and Digweed and James Abelia. So it was an unbelievable lineup. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very loud either. I was stood next to the speaker, and me and my mate were having a conversation like, what's going on?
But you know, I think one of the funniest things, we said this downstairs also, which kind of contradicts everything I've probably been saying, is it wasn't very good then.
Yeah.
Like, what I mean by that is that it was very kind of personal to everybody. Right. You went with your group of friends, and again, the difference is no phones or anything like that now. And you were going there to dance. You were going there to listen to the music and dance, and you didn't really take into account where you were. Like you said, aircraft hangar, disused railway station. You know, there was very few purpose-built clubs and venues until the mid-90s, which was when I think sort of you got more into it. But I think Dreamscape was one of the biggest, and that was, I'm going to get all jumbled up here. I can't remember exactly where Dreamscape. I think it was in Milton Keynes. And I think they purpose built a warehouse. But when you look at it now, there's no amazing bar or VIP tables or anything like that. It's a warehouse. You know what I mean? And
we went to Amnesia last year, and because I've been doing this start early, finish early things, I'm like, I'm going to go to Amnesia when it opens. So we were there at 9:30. We were literally the first ones in. And I feel like going to places like this is like a church almost. I just love the fact that you know something really big's going to happen.
Yeah.
Now, it might have VIP tables in it. It probably doesn't, because the best clubs tend, well, it's a sweeping statement, but they tend not to. I just love going to like privilege. Like that's all being done up, isn't it? Being Ibiza addicts.
Late night privilege was.
Again, never been. So like, never been. No. Like, I never went to Ibiza until 2012. I've done other things. I've done like sauna in Barcelona, Exit Festival, like Glastonbury loads of times, but I just never managed to go to Ibiza.
When did you go to Glastonbury?
2004.
What did you think of it? I went in 95.
Superb.
Amazing, isn't it?
Superb. Like some of the crazy stories that everybody thinks that, well, most people think that Glastonbury is like the pyramid stage and the other stuff.
No.
You can then go to like Shangri-La and Arcadia. We went to this place, and I have a tendency to like wander off and go off on my own.
Of course, yeah.
And
exploring.
Yeah. And then went to this place, and it was the year that U2 was supposed to play, but I think someone had broken a leg or something, and they couldn't do it. So I went into this place, and it was a karaoke bar, and it was like a Punch and Judy thing, and you put your head through the curtain, and then they gave you a set of glasses, and you were Bono in The Edge. And they had these little guitars, and then they had the karaoke screen, and you'd sing a U2 song karaoke style, but the mics had your voice pitched up to like 2 or 3 octaves too high. So there were like people like, and I'm like, I went out, I've got to come in here and see this. And that's Glastonbury. It's just insane.
Yeah.
It's an insane place. And I think Ibiza is very similar to, I always say this, it's very similar to Glastonbury.
Well, Ibiza's
vibe of it.
Yeah, Ibiza's, I went last year. I hadn't been for, 16 years, I think it was. It hadn't changed a bit. It is that vibe where I spend most of my time in the old town, but everyone's just walking around. There's a collective atmosphere that was really, really good.
Just a great place.
The clubs were great. You know, Ushuaia was great. They're bringing that here, aren't they? What do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's Dubai like is missing out all this stuff and missing out the 1990s and 90s and 10s and just going straight to Ushuaia. So Ushuaia is just part of Ibiza, isn't it? I don't particularly. I went once and I thought it was okay. Dubai is missing out all that and having Ushuaia, having O Beach. You know, these are all very kind of high end.
I think Leo's is coming here as well.
Leo's. There are quite a few coming. Yeah. It's just not really my kind of scene. Fair enough. Go to it, enjoy yourself. You know, Martin Garrix and all this stuff. It's like, yeah, fine.
I've never been out. Well, I was. It came along after I retired, I suppose.
I actually went to a music festival in Bingley, and Calvin Harris was on the music bill with Reverend and the Makers. Remember them?
Yeah.
And he must have said something to one of the lead singer of Reverend and the Makers, because he came out on stage and he went, "Calvin Harris, come out here, we'll have a fight on stage." And he wouldn't come out. And like, this is when he was like low down the pecking order, getting a fight with Reverend and the Makers. And now, I mean,
I'm the mate.
He plays. Isn't it like £600,000 a gig in Las Vegas?
Yeah.
I mean, it's pop music. Like a tune is a tune. It doesn't matter if it's pop music or floating points, and it's all right. It's just not really my kind of thing. So yeah, it's coming here, and fair enough. But
do you think it's a crazy thing that a DJ has managed to play a stadium?
I wouldn't say it's crazy. I mean, like Paul Oakenfold was opening for U2 Zoo TV in '93, so it was going on when the supposed raves were going on. It's just pop music. I mean, Avicii and David Guetta and stuff like that. They get like Rihanna in or whatever, and they just make a pop tune. They're producers. It's just pop music. I don't know. I judge it on its merits, and it's just. For me, it's just not something I particularly enjoy. Do you remember the David Guetta video when it was George Floyd? and he put like some vocal a cappella on of Martin Luther King, and it was just the most cringe-worthy.
No, I didn't.
Unbelievable cringe. And you're like, what are you doing? What are you getting yourself involved in? And he's obviously had an advisor telling him to do it, because it was like the zeitgeist at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah. It was virtual signaling to the max.
Exactly. And you wouldn't have like a DJ Hype doing that.
No.
You want a Fatboy Slim?
I'm not going to say what I'm
You want a Fatboy Slim? I mean, Fatboy Slim has pretty much stayed true to his values. Pretty much. I think Fatboy Slim is about as big as you can get, I reckon. And still be reasonably credible. Like, fair enough, he is poppy in a way. There are certain things that he does live that are quite similar across his gigs. But I mean, no, he's still.
To my knowledge, he's never done Fatboy Slim featuring Rihanna or Fatboy Slim featuring Ed Sheeran. You know what I mean? Which is a lot of what these other characters.
Yeah. Also, like, a lot of these production guys are all having their tunes taken by the pop acts. So Rihanna had a Jamie XX tune. She sampled that. I think Drake's taken a few Jamie XX tunes and a few others. So there's quite a lot. Pussycat Dolls, I think, did a Steve Bug sample or a Justin Robertson sample or something. So there's quite I mean, but that's music, isn't it?
So it's how they're trying to expose themselves to. I think it's poor management and bad advisory, and a brilliant example is Chase and Status,
right?
Who I got exposed to Chase and Status in 2010 when they did no, not No More Idols. Do you know Chase and Status? What you must? Yeah,
2004. I remember them at the beginning.
So when they did the album that has Hypest Hype, and I think it's 2010. I can't remember the name. Anyway, but it's a fantastic album, really, really good.
All right, okay.
Saw them at a festival Snowbombing Festival in 2011. Didn't know what to expect. Obviously, I'm a massive Prodigy fan. Closest thing I've ever come to seeing a band rip a stage apart like those guys.
Right.
I was like, wow. You know what I mean? Hardcore drum and bass, dubstep, very explosive. Everyone's going mental, chucking everything around. It was fantastic. And then they were building up to their new album, which they called My Brand New Machine. And when you listen to that, I've never seen an artist lose credibility from its core fan base.
Yeah,
because it's gone after this new. Because this was 2013, so you've got that. This was in Calvin Harris and Guetta, and this kind of they became pop stars, or they had the ability to, and the album is a million miles away from what they were normally doing. And it's what everyone classed as being a sellout.
Bad advice, yeah.
And you can tell it's very poor advice from the record company, because all they've done up until sort of the last 2 years is try and get back to that, back to who they were before, which they've now achieved. Like their most recent album is very, very good.
There's a Fabric album that they did was pretty good.
Yeah, and their live drum and bass sets on Boiler Room and stuff like that are magnificent.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how it's taken them a decade to shift away from that.
I think, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of what we were saying before about bands kind of having a shelf life, and then, I mean, it's.
Well, do you just do the same thing over and over again, or do you try and do something different and risk it all?
Yeah, and obviously you're going to lose fans in doing it again for you fans. Like Arctic Monkeys are a textbook example of that.
I've never really been into them.
I've not really.
And I don't know why. It's like the Foo Fighters. I don't know why I'm not into them. I'm just not.
Yeah, I think Foo Fighters are quite... I would say the Foo Fighters have been quite consistent, but bloody hell, like Arctic Monkeys, like, it's very, very diverse. Very diverse music. And they'll play gigs and play for 2 hours and people are like, is that it? So they're kind of following their own kind of... what they kind of do. I mean, they're the Arctic Monkeys, so they can pretty much do what they want.
Yeah.
And before they did all this, they did an album with the Dr. Dre producer, and it sounds like 2001, the album. And that has a similar artwork to Dark Side of the Moon as well, AM. That's a very, very good album. It's probably the only Arctic Monkeys album I like, really. I mean, they're a great band, don't get me wrong. It's just not my kind of style of music. But they've very much kind of like gone on their own path. A little bit like Radiohead to a degree.
Oh, Radiohead, fantastic.
Yeah.
Weird.
But yeah, the you know, it's just part of modern culture now. And I have this theory that if you go and watch anybody at a big arena, so there's a big arena down the road,
yes,
then they've already like walked past the sell by date. Like, don't bother. Like,
oh, really? You think?
Pretty much 100%. I think. Yeah. The only exception to that was the last one that I went to, which was Hans Zimmer.
Oh, wow.
That was like okay for the first half, and then the best concert I've ever been to in my entire life.
Why?
Like
because of what you
crying,
because you knew the songs and the movies.
It was just unbelievable. It was unbelievable. Then you started on the second act with a tune from a Last of the Samurai.
Yeah,
the Tom Cruise song. I've never seen it. Like, oh wow, this is rubbish. This is
good, but
this is much better.
Yeah.
And then Dark Knight. Like,
yeah,
wow, this is getting. It's very loud. There's a lot of like modular synthesizers going on. And then it got to the end. This is just textbook Dubai. You're like waiting for him to do Inception. The reason why you're there is for him to play Inception. And then they do the encore, he goes off stage, and everybody just turns around and walks out of the arena. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's obviously not the end. So then they all stand in the middle of the corridor. This added to it, really. And then he played Inception, like, oh, wow. And I was just talking about it all the way back to the car with my wife.
Yeah.
It's like, that was amazing. It was amazing because the first half wasn't very good. And then the second half, so this is disproving my point. That was the only time. But, I've seen Coldplay many times. Manic Street Preachers, I was well into them as a kid.
You're not a Coldplay fan.
No, I quite like that. At first, I quite didn't. Yeah, I mean, it's just horses for courses. I paid £100 to go and watch them at the Reebok Stadium. Like, that was their third album, and I was like almost in love with Coldplay at that time. And they do tunes with Kraftwerk samples in them. Like,
yeah, I've just found them to be
MOR.
Just a bit
Nah.
A bit
Yeah.
Sorry, Coldplay. It's okay.
I don't think he's going to be watching.
I don't think they're going to care. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I just think they're a bit, But Ravers in Dubai, right? Because you and I could
talk about the tunes.
Because I just realised, thinking, you know what? We're just going back and forth about all these different bands. It's one of the amazing, but this is exactly what I knew this was going to be.
Right.
As I said to you when we first met downstairs earlier today, I did. She's not going to mind me saying this. I did a podcast, I think 3 or 4 ago with Anthea Alashay. I hope I've pronounced your surname correctly. She's going to kill me, but I was very much out my depth, with that.
Yeah.
And I thought, when you messaged me, because you messaged me about something, I can't remember about something else, or I'm on your mailing list or something.
Oh, right, yeah, that's right.
And it came through, and I actually thought, I need to get Simon, because then we can just talk about the music and the raver and everything like this, because it's just going to be so engaging and something I can easily do. But Ravers in Dubai. So, again, coming back to this, because how are you going to grow this? What is it you're looking for from a venue or from people like myself? You know what I mean? Like, what do you think you need in order to take this to the next level?
So the obvious thing is to book an international DJ. That's the obvious thing to do. Kind of going a step back, you need to find the right venue. I think we've found the right venue at the moment. We could talk about, which is room 3 at Monkey Bar.
Okay.
25 Hours Hotel. The reason why it's good is it's a really industrial place. It holds about 300 to 500 people. It's got a brilliant sound system. Yeah, you walk into a lobby to get there. I'll take the pros and the cons. Yeah.
Everywhere's the same.
The key thing is that Tom, the guy that's the manager of it, is such a great guy. Venue managers, they're worth the weight in gold, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. So you kind of get to that point and you're like, right, we've found our home. How do we grow it? So, you get an international DJ and you're going to lose loads of money.
Yes.
We've got to, I think that the Ravers in Dubai story in itself is quite, it resonates with people. So we've got to get our message out more. I always ask people if they've heard about it and they've not heard about it. And most people haven't heard about it. People can think it's nice, but they won't come to the event. That's the first part. How do we kind of get our message across? Second part is a SEMA qualified accountant has been doing all of the events up until now. So I've hit my ceiling with creativity. Mm-hmm. So, we've got to get better DJs. DJs that are kind of more in with the craft. They've got a following. The following is just so important. Like, if I got all my mates to DJ, we'd still be doing it to 70 people.
Yeah.
So we've got to get younger, like less British people. It has become a British brand in a way, but it's not meant to be British. It's meant to be for anybody that likes dance music. So I really want to get more like Europeans involved. There's quite a lot of Indian guys that come to it. They all love it. You know, extend that out to more nationalities, and the DJs are a key part of that. And I think the breadth of music is important as well. So I think that house and techno, it's our version of house and techno. We can't carry on doing that. It won't grow. We've been doing that. So I want to do a garage night. I know there's a garage night here that's very successful.
Steady.
I don't want to compete with it, but it's not the same. Like what's in my head is different. It's different to what those guys are doing, and they're very, very successful. Fair play to them. You know, Artful Dodger and MC looking at, you know, all these guys. Not, you know, I don't know a lot about it, but
no. But then what we're doing here is, you know, there's no saturation with this. We do 2 a year. You know, and the second one's at the end of September, so make sure everyone comes. But no, the second one's at the end of September, and it's not something that's reoccurring. It's about doing 2 big parties a year, and
that's really key to it. I think the less frequent, the better. The more hype there is, the better. So yeah, doing something like that. I mean, people just suggest it to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good idea, and I rarely say no to people. I think like going back to the venue though, like I do want to do it in some crazy places. I want to do it in the Dubai docks. I want to do it in Al Quoz. I know it's impossible to do it. I know there's a million reasons as to why I can't obtain a license to do it.
It's well, I think change is coming. I don't have any type of inside track apart from my own intuition, which is just that very, 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 very slowly there are more venues that are getting licenses to serve alcohol, which is what we're talking about here, that 5 years ago never going to happen. You know, there's other venues. So you've got places like Canary Club, which is not part of a hotel. You've got the Bull and Roo place in the middle of JLT. I can't remember the name. It's the 3 venues. It's the Italian.
It's Sood. Is that Sood?
I can't remember the name of it, but they're licensed and they're not part of any type of hotel. So I do think that they will expand into being able to take a warehouse in El Quoz and get a license for it, as for the normal reasons, as long as just it's going to be safe and well managed and everyone's going to have a good time. And it might. Not this year, probably not next year, but I think, well, Dubai is turning into, it's expanding and suburbia is being created, you know. So I do think inevitably it'll start going down this road. So.
I want to do a gig on Skydive Dubai's runway.
Yeah, that would
be a mad place to have it.
That would be really cool.
Nobody's ever, and like, look at it from Dubai's perspective, right? They're trying to get people in. Yeah, they have wingmen flying past the Emirates A380s and stuff. They want these kind of big ticket, big bash things, you know, to sort of raise the profile of the city. Like Ravers in Dubai is not going to raise the profile of the city that much, but you know, how do we grow it? Like, we've got to speak to the right people. We need someone far more intelligent and smarter than me to explain our story, because I do genuinely think it's a good story, and I think that we've not really talked about my opinions of Dubai clubbing. We have similar opinions on it.
And what are they?
Well, most of it.
I tell you, because we've been going. A decent amount of time, you know. But we can wrap up with this. So, go on. Yeah.
Right. So I can't sound too negative on this.
You can sound however you want. Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit meh, isn't it? It's just a bit not very good. Like, there are some really good nights. Some of them I've been to, some of them I've not been to. There's these guys called Sector Collective, Moist Paper Party. Moist Paper Party is in a drained out swimming pool.
Okay.
And they play all kinds of crazy stuff like dubstep, hip hop, techno, like brilliant. We do a Ravers in Dubai weekly pop blog, and they're on it this week. And that sounds right up my street. But you go to a million others and they're just like really generic and they don't really know what they're supposed to be. They're just not very entertaining. The DJs are not very well paid, or they play for free, and it's just not really going anywhere. Like, so the people in Ravers in Dubai, when they go out, they want the music to be good. They want to be in a place where it's like just a nice experience. And sorry, I'm not explaining it very well, but we feel very dissatisfied with what we're being given. There's a brunch culture here. Obviously, there's a lot of people go out on brunches. There's a late night club culture, of which some of it's good, some of it isn't particularly good. And most of the people in Ravers in Dubai aren't really satisfied with that. They want better music. I'm being really vague here, isn't this? It's not intended to be like that. Just good quality house music, good quality techno, not being hassled by people on the dance floor and just all there for the music. Not having to walk a million miles to get to the venue. Not have this convoluted way of drinks tokens and da-da-da. You know, it's just like Dubai, in my opinion, has a tendency to overcomplicate things or over-engineer things. And club culture is very, very straightforward. You know, it's a room, it's a big sound system, good DJs, decent people. That's it.
Well, the problem from an operator's perspective is that we have to make money. The venue has to make. You have to make money. And what normally happens is that people preload. So, and this was happening in the UK for decades, where you'll go and do a bottle of vodka at home an hour before you leave, so you don't turn up at the door, you know, totally smashed. But then people get in, buy a drink, and then for some reason have a great time for 5 hours. and it's because of this. And you think when you actually run doors like I used to, and you go inside and then have to go and deal with what happens inside, you're thinking, how did that person get so smashed so quickly? And preloading is a big issue because I don't think people understand what's the reverse cycle it's happening, which is we have to make money, so our drinks prices in clubs become expensive because no one's buying a lot of them because they drink beforehand.
Or you put the prices of the ticket up on the way in.
Yeah.
There's a massive conception of people getting on free guest list.
Yeah.
I will have it all this week, people messaging me. I'm like, how am I supposed to do? I have not broken even on Dubai. Which makes you think, why the hell am I doing it? Preloading, you know, there's a big difference between the younger generation and the older generation. But, you know, I'm not satisfied with it. I've been out for the last few weekends. I'm not drinking at the moment because I'm going on holiday, kind of sober up for a bit. Like, it's just not very entertaining, not very fulfilling. So we just want to dance and have a good time.
So to finish up with then, what would satisfy you? So now, from whatever perspective you want to put that from, consumer, punter, businessman, promoter, DJ, but what?
Right, so this is my personal taste.
Yes,
not
personal.
I just want to, you know, I've got a long list of DJs I want to play here. DJs do not come here for a number of reasons, mostly because they think Dubai is this. It's not London. It's not Dubai. It's not London. It's not Amsterdam. It's not Berlin. Right, so they don't come here. That's one of the reasons why they don't come here. But there are people here, promoters or clubbers, that like these DJs and want them to come, right? So you've just got to get better DJs coming here. Simple as that. I will go out if Special Request plays. Paul Wolford from Leeds. He's 40 years old. He plays brilliant electro, jungle, drum and bass. Not this, but, you know, I love that kind of music. There's DJs, ADHD, Nicky Nair, the US DJs. They'll never play here, ever. Right? So you've got to try and work out how to get those people here. I can't do it because I'll lose loads of money. I've got to pay for the flights. I've got to pay for their accommodation. The people won't pay for it. And this is what I mean about trying to understand the economics of club culture. You know, you're basically matching supply with demand, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, like I've got this. I'm demanding. They've got to supply it.
We can't lose money. That's the problem. The minute you do in club world, it's...
And when you've got a Schweier down the road that are definitely going to be hemorrhaging quite a lot of money to start with, or I would assume they're going to do that. When you've got the big venues here booking comedians that are losing loads of money, like the people that down the pecking order, they don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
And, you know, we really got to build more of a culture in Dubai. I know it sounds really vague and really cheesy saying it, but we do. Like, it's as simple as that. And the better, you know, in my opinion, better DJs, more art galleries, more, you know, the availability of alcohol is a big factor in it. If you open it up more, I think that will breed more stuff that goes on. And then you won't have this massive gap between the Ushuaias and Ravers in Dubai down here. There's nothing in between. Whereas in New York, London, like any major city in the world, Tokyo, even Singapore.
No, you're definitely right there. Dubai's definitely going into, or has been and still is, and is going to continue to do so in bigger and bigger venues.
Yeah.
What is it? The J1 complex, which is the old Lemaire, which is going to open with 3. I think there's 8 venues there. They're all, I did a bit of a feasibility study for us, but it's going to be visually, it's going to be amazing. The beach clubs coming in are going to be unreal. How is it going to impact West Beach? I think significantly, because then that's going to become the place to go, as Dubai is. But then, like I say, Ushuaia, an amphitheatre, Expo, Jitex is soon, and they're doing Eric Pritz, 20,000 people, stuff like this. It's going to be every weekend. There's going to be probably 2 or 3 enormous events, like 10, 15, 20,000 plus.
Yeah.
I think, where's all the people?
Yeah, there's only the city is probably growing. Like the demographic of the city is definitely changing. There isn't, I don't believe, there's obviously a finite number of people, but when you're talking about these gigs, you've just got this finite audience of people, and they're either going to go to one or the other. In order for this to become more successful, you need a bigger community, a bigger audience of people to go to these things. And definitely, I'm not saying invest in these people, just make it easier for them to do it. It's not very easy to do these events because of things that I can't talk about.
Yeah.
But I am talking.
And we'll leave that there. Simon, listen, it's been great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
I've really enjoyed this conversation because it's just been a musical tour de force.
Exactly.
All I ever wanted it to be.
Perfect.
So, look, best of luck to Ravers in Dubai.
Cheers.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Take it easy.
Yeah, very cold.